Motorhead Garage, the program that each week introduces you to and shows you how to install the latest in exciting and innovative products for your vehicle. Motorhead Garage is presented by NHOU Protective Coatings. Now here's your host, Dave Dobson.
Welcome to Motorhead Garage, presented by NHOU Protective Coatings. You know, the electric car is on the march, whether you like it or not. And a lot of folks are pointing at hot rodders and racers, Jan, and saying they're the ones that are the polluters and the big offenders in this. But you guys are trying to prove them wrong at Innovation Performance Technologies. How so?
We know they're trying to kill hot rodding, Dave, and we are going to try and come up with some crazy idea that says maybe the guys building a car in their garage are way greener than they say.
And we'll talk about that. And this is not the first time this has happened. Back in the 1980s, the government was trying to shut down the racing industry, basically. And Hot Rodding Magazine said, we have forgotten this. The idea about building a hot rod is to take something that's not worth a whole lot, you take what you can afford and you make it better.
Oh, you're right on. Yeah. So basically we had men coming home from the war that were young men that were pretty creative. They fought the Nazis, you know, and they would go find these older cars, put them together, put the most modern, current, high-power engine they could stick in it. Back then it was a flathead, and made a real cool car. Maybe we're here again.
And you guys know what you're talking about. Innovation Performance Technologies has been on the show before. We've seen some of their amazing creations, from resto mods to hot rods and things like that. And you've done that here with the Shocker over here, and we'll get to the details on that. And this is addressing what's going on right now. They're still coming after race cars in the government.
Absolutely. First is they just want to go after the race car industry, right? And the idea is a stock car that you would take and you'd modify it for racing. The government doesn't really like that, and they're trying to put some lids on that. And I think there's a bunch of people from NASCAR who might have a different opinion about that.
I'm sure of that. So then enter the RPM Act.
Yeah.
And what is that all about?
So the RPM Act is basically an act that Congress is trying to push through as a law that says that you have the right to take your car and do whatever you want with it, including racing, including modifying it, change your tire, whatever you want to do, or build a car in your backyard.
Of course, the RPM Act is all about racing, and you're also addressing issues with racing and with road-going cars as well. What are you trying to prove here with the Shocker?
Well, basically, racing industry has always created some pretty cool stuff that always transitions well into a car. You know, active suspension, active handling, and ABS brakes, all those things came from racing many, many years ago. Well, what we wanted to do is build a car that you could grab out of the junkyard and put this thing together and compare it to an electric car to see if we can compete in the green new world.
If you can do it on the racetrack, you can do it on the road as well.
Exactly, Dave. If you look at the car behind me, this car has lots of wins on it, and we wanted to take that idea and try to put it into a street car that the average person could build in their garage. Remember, we want to integrate, not fabricate.
And to be clear, you're not necessarily going to make a race car like this to this extreme, but you wanted to prove that you could make a car that you could recycle and put on the road. So what are some of the considerations that you want to take when you're building a car from, say, a junkyard vehicle?
We came up with a list of 10 things that we wanted to do. When we look at those 10 things, they are, first, pick a car that you like. And next, make sure that the car is a popular car, that parts are available. There's a lot of advancement in parts, and there's a lot of development that's already occurred in most cars. You just got to make sure you're picking one of those cars that have it.
And how can you find if the parts are available for your particular car?
It's called Google.
I got you. I've heard of that. I've got it in my pocket.
Then, you know, what we're looking for is safety. Safety is a really big factor here. And in safety, you know, look, you can have the greatest engine, transmission, whatever you're going to do. If the car is unsafe, it's not worth even being in.
No doubt about that. And then part of the safety is the suspension, everything underneath. A lot of folks think about that as performance, but really starting, stopping, and the handling of the vehicle is really all about safety.
Oh, absolutely. So basically, we had 40 years of racing experience on this. Why not take the exact same suspension and stick it in this car? And that's what we did. The big thing is brakes, and we'll talk about brakes later on.
Gotcha. And then the drivetrain?
The drivetrain is the stock drivetrain from a modern 2019 Mustang. It's fuel injected, it's direct injected. You know, 40 years, engines and drivetrains have come quite a long way. It's not just the engine, it's all the electronics and the creature comfort stuff that you're going to get in a new car. We want it in this car too.
And next, you don't want to break the bank.
Correct.
We'll set a realistic budget for that.
Realistic budget. So that's part of the list. Realistic budget that you can build this thing in your garage with, that at the end of the day, it's pretty easy to wrap up money when you're trying to build one of these cars. But in every way, it's cheaper than spending $60,000 to $100,000 on an electric car, and then 7 years from now, spending another $20 grand to get the batteries redone. That's pretty expensive. I'm pretty sure we can compete economically building one of these cars.
And the last item on your list, make memories. What's that about?
Absolutely. You know, somewhere right now, There are people that are watching this show. You're capable of doing this. You and I don't have some magic ability. It's just we've experienced this by failing and accomplishing, failing and accomplishing. That's what it's all about. It's like working with your hands. So I'm going to get that guy off the bench. And you know what? Usually he's doing it with someone else, friends, family, children, spouses, whatever. That's about building that relationship.
Well, we know we've piqued your interest, so come on back to Motorhead Garage presented by NHOU Protective Coatings. We'll show you how you can make a vehicle like this.